expects you to grow in your faith. Verse 12, by this time you ought to be teachers, he says. But you come to need milk and not solid food. Now, let's not disdain milk. Milk is a great place for a new believer to start. The simple, beautiful things of the scriptures are wonderful. And we want, all the young believers to start out on the good milk of the word. Yearn for it. 1 Peter 2:2, like newborn babes, long for the pure milk of the word, so that by it you may grow in respect to salvation. It's always a joy when you see someone who's first come to faith in Jesus Christ and they are just filled with zeal. You know what I'm saying? They're like so excited and they're like telling everybody they know, and they're so full of zeal and they're hungry. Like they want to know more. Like, what book should I read? How should I get to know my Lord? I say, he started in John. John's a great book to get to know the person of Jesus. But notice that emphasis on longing for the pure milk. Even new Christians have a longing and a desiring for the deeper things. And just like we as parents, every parent wants his child to grow. Every parent wants his child to grow. Now that we're raising our granddaughter Avia, right? We're back into that mode of raising a child, and we want her to grow. We're emphasizing the importance of school. Like sometimes, I'm tired in the morning. I don't want to go. No, you're going to go to school because school, you've got to grow, and school is the key to, knowledge, and you got to go. And we understand, especially now that we're older, the importance of school. And we want her to grow. When we first got her, she was into dolls. She was in that doll phase. And she was like 7, and she had her dolls, and she would sit in a room. She had a really beautiful, big doll house that her aunt had given her, and we would come into a room, and she's playing, and she said, "Grandpa, come play dolls with me." So I did. Any grandpa worth his salt is going to play dolls. Thank you. Little support there. And so I'm like, I'll play dolls with you. And it's like, for me, it's an opportunity to teach. Right? Her doll and my doll are going to have a conversation. We're going to have an education moment. Right? But she then she grew out of the doll thing. And then she moved into do-it-yourself, DIY projects. And I'm glad she moved out of that because the house was a big mess. But she moved beyond that, Now she's into like singing harmonies. Right? And learning some of the songs that we sing here. It's like wanting to learn the piano, right? She's growing. Every parent wants his child to grow. Like 1 Corinthians 13:11, when I was a child, I used to speak like a child. I used to think like a child. I used to reason like a child. But when I became a man, I put away childish things. Right? That's what God is calling us to in our relationship to Him. Put away childish things and grow to deeper things. See, and here's the point we got to grasp. Age alone does not produce maturity. I think when we think of the word maturity, what comes to mind oftentimes is age. We assume that as people grow older, that they're going to grow more mature. But that's not necessarily so. I've been around a long time and I've seen the process. And I can tell you that time alone does not heal a person of a hot temper. Time does not heal that. Time alone does not heal a person of a catty tongue or an unforgiving heart or a bossy attitude. Time doesn't heal that. Time doesn't heal a bitter spirit. Time doesn't heal that. In fact, it's quite possible to be young and very mature in your faith. Timothy, Paul's son in the faith, young Timothy, got to be an example. In fact, Paul gave to him much responsibility, even in his youth. And he said to him in 1 Timothy chapter 4, verses 11 to 12, he's instructing Timothy, and he says, now prescribe and teach these things. Let no one look down on your youthfulness, but rather in your speech, conduct, love, faith, and purity, show yourself to be an example of those who believe. So it brings us to the question, well, what does it take to grow spiritually? How does a person move from immaturity to maturity? This is a very important question. And I tell you, it has everything to do with the desire to grow. That's why the title of our message is Desire Deeper Faith. It has everything to do with the desire for it. The scripture speaks of hungering and thirsting. That speaks of desire, doesn't it? Hungering and thirsting for the things of God. When you hunger and thirst, then like you want those things. It's a teachable heart. But it's not just because you want to learn more. In other words, pressing on to spiritual maturity is not because you want to simply learn. See, knowledge puffs up, but love builds up. It's a whole different thing. Here's my point. See, what you want is you want the transformation that spiritual maturity brings. See, you want the changes in your life that spiritual maturity brings. I don't want just knowledge. I want the changes that come with pressing on to spiritual maturity. See, in other words, you come to understand. You come to an understanding. I don't want a bitter heart anymore. I want a forgiving heart. See, one is spiritually immature and the other is spiritual maturity. I don't want bitter heart. I want forgiving heart. I don't want to be cantankerous and rude anymore. I've been cantankerous and rude too long. That's not spiritual maturity. I want to be gentle, kind, meek, and humble. Jesus was. I want that. I want that. I am so done with cantankerous words coming out of my mouth and being rude to people around me. I don't want that. I want maturity. Faith is better than fear. I don't want to be in a prison of fear anymore. I don't want that. I want faith. See, I don't want to become easily offended when people say things, about me. I don't want to become easily offended. I want to trust God. Trust God is better. I want that. Having a thankful heart is better than complaining. I want the changes that come with spiritual maturity. That's my point. It's not just knowledge. It's not just knowledge. It's the changes that come. That's why he says in chapter 6, verse 1, press on to maturity. That's his point. Press on. Leave the elementary principles and press on to maturity. Deeper faith brings transformation. Deeper faith brings confidence in living. It's one of the points I was making last week. One of the mantras of our day is self-confidence. Self-confidence is confidence in self. David said, no, God, you have been my confidence. Since my youth, you, God, have been my confidence. If you want to see faith in the living of life, you look at David. You have been my confidence since my youth. See, it brings that. We press on to have that kind of faith. How does this happen? Well, when you long for spiritual milk, then you grow. And then you begin to be able to handle then softer foods, like with a baby, right? They'll just be drinking milk and be happy and content. But we know as parents that they got to move to those softer foods, right? So then we get those little Gerber bottles with those yucky tasting mashed carrots or mashed asparagus. Some of these things are amazingly good, and some of them are like not. But we press them on, and what happens is that their systems can handle it. Their systems start to be able to handle the soft food, and then we move them on to, their teeth come in, they can start handling the meat, and they can handle the vegetables. And that's the whole point, is that you grow to deeper and deeper things. And faith, the idea